Today, I am actually compelled to share this guitar with you, and I'm going to do my first ever gear review on my channel. There's been a lot of interest in this model, at least from my guitar friends. So I've had it for about a month, and I absolutely love it. Don't want to get too hyperbolic, but I really, really do love this guitar. So I just want to give you my 2 cents, break it down, talk about the things I do love about it and why. And hopefully it would encourage you to check one out for yourself in case you're interested. So first things first, the model that I'm talking about, this is a Bourgeois, but there's a little bit of a twist. Some of you who are watching this probably know this brand historically. It's a pretty high-end, top-tier, limited run, historically limited run maker out of Lewiston, Maine. But recently they've partnered with Eastman guitars. Probably know them. They're a little bit more ubiquitous. You find them in a lot of stores across the United States. They're China, based in Beijing, China. Pretty confident about it. I think that's where their home base is. But this was in a partnership. So basically what this means is all of the woods, so the top, which is Alaska Sitka spruce, old growth wood. The body is made from an eastern Indian rosewood. Mahogany neck. All these are sourced from the actual Bourgeois factory in Maine. Also, they get voiced there. So from what I understand, it's a combination of the tops, and there's also paired with the old Sitka spruce bracing as well. So Dana Bourgeois takes these, they do a lot of that fine craftsmanship, that fine voicing in Lewiston, then they send it off to China, where they do really, I guess, lack of a better word, the grunt work. They kind of assemble it, put it all together, kind of a little bit, save a few dollars on the manufacturing. Then they come back to Lewiston, Maine for the final setup, for the final review, the quality assurance, make sure they are indeed voiced correctly, all that kind of stuff. Because you know if they're going to put their name on it, it's got to be good. And I think they are. So I have not played an Eastman. I have never played a Bourgeois either. But something about this combination really spoke to me as soon as I picked it up in the store. And speaking of that, I bought this at this relatively new store, at least new to me, Stevie's Guitars here in the Twin Cities, in Edina specifically. Wonderful, wonderful store. Check them out. It's actually their website is guitars.net. In case you forget it, I will put that link in the description. So check them out. They're mostly electric shop, but they do have a very select group of acoustic guitars. Really cool stuff, some top-notch stuff, middle tier, but more like unique things that you can't find other places. In fact, I went out there because they had this model on the line, and I couldn't find it anywhere else. So to give you a little bit about the background of how this came to be. So just talking about the craftsmanship, I said that they're sent over to Beijing, China to be put together there. And I swear to you, like I have scrutinized this thing and I cannot find a flaw. I've played a lot of guitars in my life. And I've gone through everything with a fine-tooth comb. I'm no luthier, but I have experience with instruments, and I cannot find a flaw from the finish, from the bracing. I even gone inside and looked at the gluing. No sloppy work at all. It just really is top-notch stuff. And besides the woods that I talked about before that are quite boutique and excellent, all the components really are. They didn't skimp on anything. There's some excellent Schaller, Grand Tune, open gear tuners, which in my opinion are excellent. Definitely on par with Waverly. These Ivoroid bridge pins, which are a composite material that are meant to sound like ivory. So, for the good thing, they're no longer taking them from elephants. We don't want to do that anymore. Ebony bridge, like I said, mahogany neck, ebony fingerboard, herringbone, and just really minimal appointments. That's another thing I love about it. I'm not a big guy or a guy who's really big into super ornate guitars, all the pearl inlays, all that kind of stuff. I like much more utilitarian model, but this one has just enough design to set it apart and really add a little sharp quality to it. And not to mention OM body size, that's my jam. As a fingerstyle guitarist, it is really the most comfortable size for me. This one too has actually more of a vintage model neck. So what that means, it's not low profile. I mean, it's low profile-ish, but it has that old-timey kind of a V neck in the back. And I'd show it to you, but it's hard to see just in our camera setup here. But it really harkens back to some of the Martins, some of the pre-war stuff, some of the vintage models they do. And historically, I really love playing lower profile, almost electric necks, but something about this V style just works with my hands. I've had the same experience with Martin OM18V, same kind of thing, and it just works really well up and down the neck. Again, that's for my hands. So it's very, very, very comfortable to play. Speaking, in addition to that, I mentioned that quality assurance, they make sure it's voiced correctly, craftsmanship is up to the Bourgeois standards. They also do the final setup at the factory before they get shipped out. And again, I cannot find a flaw in this. I'm quite picky and got very particular about how I like my guitars set up over the years. And as a fingerstyle player, as I've gotten older, gotten more matured, I like lower action. And this just hits it on the mark. I've tuned it down. In fact, I'm in open D now, so I have slacked the strings a little bit. They don't buzz, no rattle, real even up and down the neck as well. So just an impeccable job. I didn't measure everything, but I can just see how even the neck. I definitely checked the neck straightness, the relief, all that kind of the basic stuff, and it's right on the money. So I'm going to try my best to keep it this way. Of course, temperature changes and things like that can change. But it's out of the gate. It's just awesome. So when I picked it up at Stevie's Guitars, I noticed that right away. And so in getting into the tone aspect of it, so when I picked up this guitar and played it for the first time, immediately, besides the playability of it and the feel, I was really impressed with just the volume. I mean, this thing just had a big, loud sound for an OM. Like really great. It wasn't like booming crazy like a dreadnought, but just a really strong responsiveness. I'm going to play a little bit more later, and so hopefully you get an example. Limited capabilities, so I'm just playing into the camera mic, no processing, but hopefully it gives you an idea of what this thing is capable of. But the tone is excellent. It's perfectly balanced, not too high, not too low. I would call it, it's like in my sweet spot, I call it punchy and crunchy. That's just what I love. That's the tone I just love. Usually I get that out of mahogany guitars, but this guy, Rosewood, surprisingly enough, it has it. So it's punchy, crunchy with a little crispiness. And the high end, again, I said not too high, but enough low end to really keep it all more full-bodied sound. The other thing that it doesn't have, which I'm really glad, is that it doesn't have any sort of a mid-range woof. I learned that term from Leo Kottke. He always used to talk about some of these older guitars he'd pick up, he loved them, but they had sort of a mid-range woof. And it's hard for me to explain what that means beyond that, because that actually is the perfect term once you hear it and you understand what that woof sounds like. But that's not the case with this. This thing is just clear as a bell. No nasty overtones or woof tones obscuring the clarity of the notes. So really wonderful. So on top of that, the voicing that I talked about that the Bourgeois factory does with the bracing, the wood selection. The top is also torrefied. It's a torrefaction process. So what that means is they take these tops and they run it through basically, I think, I've never seen it, but just the way it's described to me, it's like a large oven. They're basically baked or cooked to just get out any of the moisture, any sap, just anything that, kind of the natural fluids that might be in the wood at this point. So what it's really designed to do is to dry it out and give it that vintage sound, essentially to try to get it to that point of sound like a 30, 40, 50-year-old, 100-year-old guitar. Now, I have played some vintage guitars that are that old, that have that. This isn't quite there, but I would say that what the Torrefaction does is it gives it a really good head start. Because I can really hear, like compared to some of the newer guitars I have, and it really has that vintage sound out of the gate. But what's key is that this thing's not done. It's not like done aging. It's going to keep aging and will continue to dry and cure and change, especially the more it's played and the sonic vibrations and all that stuff gets in. It's going to continue to just, in my opinion, I'm sure it's only going to get better. And if that happens, look out, man. That's just going to be awesome. So really great guitar. Again, don't want to get too hyperbolic about it, but I'm just so happy with this thing. And if anything, again, speaks to me. I don't know, listener, what your playing style is, what you like, what your preference is, but this works for me. But all I can say is that if you've been interested in this model, you've seen them, read about them, I encourage you to seek one out and try it. I just think that's the endorsement I can give you. If you've been curious, find one if you can and play it. And if you do find it and like it, get it while you can. Don't tell anybody. And then once you get home, then tell your guitar buddies that you have one, and they can go seek one out themselves. The other thing I'll say, so if you do like it, awesome. Enjoy it. I hope it just helps you, inspires your playing, get some new tunes. I know that in just the little time that I played this over the last month or so, it's just always, just these new sonic qualities has given me some new ideas, kind of breathe life in some of my older tunes, help me experiment with some different phrasing, all that kind of stuff. Because you just hear things a little bit differently, feel things a little bit differently. And if it's better, then it pushes you to continue to develop tunes. But also, I have a new batch of tunes I'm working on for my EP, and it's really helping me continue to develop those. In fact, I would say that I love my Martin OM 21 30-year-old guitar. That's been my workhorse for many years, decades actually, and will continue to do so. But this thing, it's given it a run for its money, and for right now, it's becoming my main axe. And I can see already, even the demos that I've done, that it's going to drive a good portion of this next EP. I'll never sideline the Martin OM by any stretch, but this is just hitting the sounds that I like and the feel for the current material that I'm working on. So anyway, I hope this encouraged you and help you. Like I said, I've tried to answer the questions that some of my other guitar friends have asked me and who have encouraged me to do this review. And so I hope I've given you a little insight for you to explore it on your own. And I will say also that the price point on these things is excellent. I'm not going to say, oh, it's the best thing you can get at this price point. I always feel like when reviewers say that, it's a little bit dismissive or kind of like that. I don't care. I just feel like this is just a boutique guitar at probably half the price that you're going to pay for some of these other ones, and particularly a Bourgeois. No slight on Bourgeois, but I think they've got a good thing going with this partnership with Eastman. And if this is a trend or a thing that more companies are going to do, I think it's great because you can get a pretty near quality upper tier bougie brand boutique. That's what they say, boutique guitar, but they're kind of bougie in your hands at a decent price and get nearly there or maybe better. I don't know. But this is great. So anyway, thanks for listening. I hope this is helpful. I'm going to close out here and play a few examples. Again, we're just going through the camera mic here, so limited in sonic quality, but I think you'll get a good idea. And I'm going to play a few things. We'll see how far I get. But the first one is just going to be a little bit more of an open piece, just so you can really a piece where there's a lot of sustains, so you can really hear how it sustains, how the thing breathes, and how the notes really go, so you can really get a sense of the sonic qualities. And then I'll do a couple more active picking pattern-y things, so you can hear how it responds to more of the faster picking stuff as well. But you want to hear the nuance, get it in your hands and try it for yourself. So thanks for listening. Hope this helps, and we'll see you next time. For this first example, I'm actually going to put the capo on it because at the intro piece I played, you heard it already what it sounds like with a moderate picking tempo with just the open strings, a little more of the open strings, meaning no capo. But I want to show you that even with the capo up and playing further up the neck, this thing maintains its tonal balance. That's not always the case. Sometimes you move up the neck, put the capo on, maybe because you're choking off the bone, that it gets rid of some of that harmonic depth and those qualities that make this great, but not this one at all. In my opinion, it sings. In fact, it adds a little bit more punch to it when you get in that higher range. So I'll play a little bit of excerpt from one of my pieces here, and hopefully you can get a sense of what that sounds like. All right, so now I'm going to play a little bit of a slower tune so you can really hear the guitar breathe. One piece that really emphasizes the overall sustain of this piece, which is a big, huge asset to this thing. You hit one note, and it just could go on for days. I think I said at the outset, but I am in an open tuning. All these examples are in open D tuning, so that's where come on. Can you hear that? Can you hear how good that sounds? Another Leo Kottke reference, in case you can't tell, he's one of my favorite players. There was something he said. I think I saw him play at an opera house in Wisconsin many years ago, and he had just gotten a new guitar himself. It was a James Olson, and he was really, really fired up about it. I actually got to play it a little bit backstage, but that's a different story. But he was just on fire that night, so you could just tell he was really excited about what he had. But at one point, if you've seen him play, he likes to, he'll talk, and some will call it rambling. I just think he tells these amazing stories. But he just was playing, and he noodles while he talks. That's just what he does. And he was in standard tuning, and just hit on an E chord. So that's not an E chord, but that's basically what he did. And he just stopped, and he's like, "Man, just listen to that! Whoa!" And he played like an A after it. He's like, "That is just amazing." He stopped himself, and he said, "You could live in there. You could live in that chord." And I totally know what he means. Kind of like the mid-range woof. So anyway, I think about that a lot, because every time I hit on a really beautiful chord or something, I think, God, I could live in there, because I probably could and be very happy. All right. Anyway, so here's the last example. I think I said I was going to play 3. I kind of lost track, but I played the intro. I just played one with the capo to give you that higher range, and now I'm going to close out with a little more of a slower moving piece. Like I said, that you can really enjoy the sustain, emphasize some of the harmonics and some of the just real melodic qualities that you can really pull out of this instrument. So here we go. You live in there too.